Today we're going to be talking about banks, and more banks. Stay tuned for more. Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back. Today is Tuesday, March 19th, 2019. And today we're going to be talking about banks and more banks. That's right. Well, there's a lot of bank news within the news that I would love to cover and talk about, because obviously it's all correlated to everything that's going on. And could it signify the next bull run? Is it signifying a new bull run? Are things moving in that direction? And so on and so forth. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And of course, you know, Bitcoin being probably the most important bank of them all. Well, okay, so let's get into it. All right, so first little headline: IBM recruits 6 banks to participate within this new program in which they want banks to create their own stable coins to use within this new ecosystem of, you know, bank financial movement and all that good stuff. And they're going to be using Stellar XLM, all right, instead of, you guessed it, Ripple XRP. Now, in case you guys aren't aware, Stellar is actually a fork of XRP. Go figure, right? Actually, Stellar is actually Stellar XLM. XLM is the symbol, ticker, whatever. But anyway, Stellar has their own decentralized exchange which runs on Stellar. So if you go to StellarX.com, you can actually go to the Stellar decentralized exchange and use a decentralized exchange which they created. If you guys don't know what a decentralized exchange is, again, it's just an exchange. It's just an exchange in which it's decentralized. Sorry, I got a little distracted. There's some noise going out there. But anyways, most exchanges, you know, like Coinbase, Binance, and every other exchange out there, every major exchange, BitMEX, you name it, they're all centralized. And so a decentralized exchange allows you to really get, you know, when you're trading, you get what you have. Meaning if you're trading some Bitcoin, you get Bitcoin. You know what I mean? You actually have Bitcoin, as opposed to them sitting on a, you know, some server or sitting on that exchange and you have no idea if you can get them out or not. In fact, as you guys know, there's a bunch of you guys out there that, you know, sometimes trying to get money off your exchange or trying to get stuff off your exchange, and it's not as smooth as we might like. So that's why we need decentralized exchanges, because again, centralized exchanges are run by the banks, or run by big corporations, or run by a centralized entity, and they're no good. So we're moving away from that. But anyways, I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent there. But I guess all I was saying is that now, you know, more banks are being encouraged to create their own stable coins. So JP Morgan was the first one, and now, you know, more banks are being encouraged to do this. And on top of that, as you guys can see, either banks are creating their own ecosystem, or they're using another ecosystem like something that IBM, Stellar, and others are creating. Notice that you're not hearing Ripple XRP anywhere, okay? Just FYI, all right? Ponzi scheme. Ponzi scheme. Scam. Scam. So, you know, that's what I think about XLM. I mean, that's what I think about Ripple. That's what I think about Ripple. I want to say Freudian slip, but, you know, maybe it was, because, again, you know, now Stellar XLM, I'm not a big fan anymore because, well, guess what? You know, IBM and the banks are using this. Now, I need to look more into this, but it seems like they're actually putting together an actual real blockchain with real, you know, accountability and all that good stuff. So if that's the case, then that is great, and so be it. You know what I mean? Stellar's doing exactly what, or creating the infrastructure for the banks of the future that we would want, not the structure that exists right now. And again, XRP, Ripple, JPM coin, and so on. They, you know, continue business as usual with the old system. But again, regardless, all this is just banking news, and none of it is really good anyway to begin with. Just throwing it out there. You guys, let's talk about it in the comments. And what do you guys think about Stellar? What do you guys think about the IBM news? What do you guys think about that? Now, next news. Deutsche Bank and Commerz Bank, the two major German banks of Germany, they are merging together to now become one of the biggest banks in the world. Once they merge, they'll be number 10 put together. Why would they be merging? Well, if you don't know, both banks are failing miserably, and that's one of the main. When people they're looking at the economy and saying that the economy is going to tank tomorrow, the next day, soon, whatever, they look at things like, oh, Deutsche Bank is failing, Deutsche Bank is going bankrupt, and so on and so forth. And with that being said, you know, now Deutsche Bank and the other major German bank joining together and becoming one, all that is signifying is that now they are going to become too big to fail, literally. And again, more printing as usual. Remember, I kept telling you guys, we have to hit hyperinflation. Okay, that, you know, we're going to talk about this in a second, but again, you know, hyperinflation is still not even necessarily even here yet. I mean, we're in inflation, but it's not hyperinflation. And there's so many more things that need to happen before the euro dies, before the dollar dies, before the whole thing falls apart, and so on and so forth. And again, we're still very early within the crypto space. Okay, I'm not saying that, you know, the crypto isn't the future. Crypto definitely is the future, but we got to start somewhere. Okay. That's why I keep referencing, you know, the late 80s or mid 80s, you know, early 90s, you know, when it comes to development of the internet and computers. That's where we are now. We're still at the birth and at the very beginning. So another thing that I want to also point out, which is semi-bank news, since the banks do run the world. The yield curve has officially really inverted. If you watch Gregory Mannarino's episode yesterday, and if not, you can just check it yourself. You know, just look at the bonds and the bond yields. And what do I mean by all this? Okay, so, you know, just real quick, I'm not going to be putting any graphs or stats or anything, but if you're an investor and you're putting money in bonds and stocks and anything, all right, you want the most payout in the quickest amount of time, right? That's anything, you know, no matter what. It's all about those gains, right? Okay. So if you have a choice, okay, of choosing, forget bonds. We're just gonna stick to like Bitcoins and Bitcoin futures, which, by the way, man, there's so many things. I gotta write this down. So many things to talk about. Anyways, so as I was saying, so like the thing is, like, you know, the basics to, you know, making money in any kind of market is really, again, to get in and get out as quickly as possible and make as many gains within that time span. So if all of a sudden, bonds, what are bonds? Bonds are stock within the country. So if you're buying US bonds, you're buying US stocks. If you're buying China bonds, you're buying China stocks. Okay, so with that said, there's different kind of bonds you can buy. You know, 2-year, 5-year, 10-year, 7-year, all these years. So what does that mean? That means that it takes 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, all these amount of years for them to pay out. So if you buy a 6-month bond, okay, and it's paying you 2.5%, and if you buy a 2-year bond, a 5-year bond, a 7-year bond, any other year bond, and it actually gives you back 2.4%, which is less, then why the hell would you buy any other bond? You would only want to buy 6-month bonds, right? Which, again, when everything is normal, the 6-month bond is the one that gives you back the least amount, because it's you're getting in and you're getting out. And when you buy like a 10-year, 20, 30-year bond, you get back the most because you've been holding on the longest to these stocks. So when the whole thing inverts, that's called the yield curve inversion. So that's where we're at now, where a 6-month bond gives you more back. It gives you back more than any other bond except a 30-year bond, which is again a 30-year mortgage. But any other year, 15, 10, 7, 5, 3, 2. You know, every other 1 year, all these other bonds now yield you less, and yet everything is normal. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about, Bitcoin futures, the CBOE, and all these other stock markets, okay, and exchanges. That's it. They're done. They've taken everything out, okay, meaning that there's no more market for these fucking things. What do I mean? Well, there's not going to be any more Bitcoin futures to be traded. Remember, Bitcoin futures Bitcoin futures came onto the market in October of 2017, right at the beginning of, or right before the bull market. In fact, many analysts and many people out there say and think that the reason that we had the major push to 20K was because, sorry about that, so rude, so rude. Anyways, a lot of analysts and people out there think and say that the reason that we went to 20K was because of these futures. And these futures has also been one of the main, catalysts to wrecking everybody and wrecking the whole, price of Bitcoin all the way from 20K back to where we were before we started in 2017, give or take. So we are, okay, so now the CBOE and all these other futures out there, but mainly the CBOE has said we're pulling our futures from the market next month. So there's not going to be any more futures being traded. All right. So there's not going to be any more manipulation coming from Wall Street, the stock market, and so on and so forth. And not just there, but they're pulling out in other avenues. And then things like Backed, which were providing more futures and more things like that, they're also like just waiting in the water, just just hanging, just floating in the water, and just kicking the can down the road and not necessarily making anything. And remember, Backed wasn't necessarily a futures thing, okay? It was mainly a liquidity option so that Starbucks and everyone else and all these other entities out there can start using, merchants can start using Bitcoin, okay? But what it seems like it's happening, it seems like the banks, now we're moving on to the next thing, all the banks around the world are now starting to really tighten on crypto rules and regulations. And what do I mean? So remember just a few episodes ago, or weeks ago, when we were talking about like Russia and crypto and how they're very friendly with crypto over there? Well, it turns out that about a few weeks ago, or a few days ago, or whatever, not too long ago, they literally came out and said that they're going to start really hammering down and start cracking down on crypto with rules and regulations. Mexico is another place that was pretty much free for everyone to do their thing, and a few days ago, literally a couple days ago, they came out saying that they're going to start really clamping down on crypto, and they don't know what they're going to be doing, but they're going to be doing something, and almost everybody within the crypto community out here is not very happy and very worried about what's to come down the pike with that. And you can go to India, you can go to Iran, you can even go to Venezuela, you can go to a lot of places, and again, the US is not the only one anymore. They're starting to really regulate and start clamping down on crypto, which is totally fine. It's totally okay. We can still access it. We can still get it. We can still do, business as usual. But it's just going to start like everything else. When they declared a war on drugs, all that did is just make more drugs more readily available. So I think it's going to be the same thing. If they're going to be having, if the banks are going to wage war on cryptos and have a war against cryptos, it's only going to it's only going to make cryptos more readily available to everybody. And we all know this. It's just nature of the beast. And on top of that, as each day goes on, banks are becoming more and more difficult for the average person to use. A lot as when I was talking about the yield curve inversion and I was talking about negative interest rates, I don't think I brought that up, but I'm bringing it up now. We're heading towards negative interest rates, and in some cases we're already there. And what does that mean? That means that now banks charge you money for an account, where you can now get like a thing like the Cash App and not have to pay for your bank account, and so on and so forth. And we're moving towards cryptos. The younger generation, they don't even have bank accounts. New younger millennials really don't have bank accounts, and they already are very familiar with cryptos and the whole space. So we're moving this way, no matter what, one way or the other. And as cryptos start becoming more restricted and harder to use, then more people are going to start moving towards privacy coins and things of that nature. Okay, but crypto and Bitcoin and none of these things are going away. They're not going away. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. In fact, they're here to stay, and they're really cementing themselves within our culture and the financial system and everything going forward. Because again, I started off with saying, IBM, banks, all creating a new system. Everything. Every single day you're looking at the Bank of International Settlements. which is the central bank of all central banks and every central bank around the world, you know, they're really clamping down and saying, hey, we hate these cryptos, we really, you know, can't deal with this, we don't want to do this anymore. Sorry, that's not wrong wording there, but anyways, pretty much, yeah, I mean, kind of, you know, whatever, like at the end of the day, yeah, the banks are pretty much like, oh, fuck, you know what I mean? This is really getting out of hand. This crypto stuff is not fun, not cool. We need to get rid of this shit ASAP. And that's why I feel like they're clamping down all over the world, because when I was doing my research on the banks before I did this episode, I realized that China is still part of the central banking Rothschild system. So is Russia, so is Mexico, and so is pretty much every country out there. So, you know, the only countries that are not part of the Rothschild banking, you know, system is Cuba, Venezuela, Iran. You already know, okay? That's it. If we're not trying to invade them, then they're not. If we're not trying to invade them, okay, then they are. You have to assume that they're part of that central banking system, and that's it. That's really it. And you know, speaking of the Rothschilds, real quick, you know, the Rothschilds bank, you know, has now become private. They're getting away from the public eye. I was watching this morning, yesterday morning, I was watching on RT, Russia Today or whatever. I was watching in Paris, France, the Rothschild bank was burning, not burning to the ground, but it was on fire, but it was a big fire. So, you know, the pieces are falling. The people that are in power, which is the banks, mainly the Rothschilds, but they're just only a small, tiny, you know, part of the owners. Not really, not small, tiny part, but you get what I'm saying. Like, they're the only part of them. Them amongst others that are in the top uber elite are, again, doing everything humanly possible to clamp down and really put the hammer to the head, because they're seeing that they're losing control in every aspect of the world right now, whether it's the banking system or, you know, the population turning against them, like in Europe or in Latin America or in other parts of the world, and so on and so forth. So even though, you know, there's a lot of turmoil within the world and a lot of turmoil within the banking system and a lot of all this other stuff, you know, again, you know, the banking system, you know, I've talked about this in many episodes in the past, like maybe a year ago or whatever, but, you know, the banking system was on the West. The West was dominant for the longest time, and now the West is falling. And by the West, I mean everything that's Europe and the United States and all that, first world country stuff. And then all that is falling, and now it's the East's turn. So everything is moving towards the East. And we can see that. Just look at the East. Look at all the Asian countries, and look at Russia, and look at just everything on that side of the planet. And you're seeing that everything on that side, they're 10 steps ahead of us in a lot of things. And everything is moving that way. And remember what the famous Rothschild once said: he does not give a crap who runs the world. As long as he's printing the money, that's all that matters. So with that being said, again, the Rothschilds are just setting up shop over there. Xi Jinping, the Emperor of China, yeah, exactly, the Emperor of China. He used to be the president, now he's the Emperor. Same thing happened with Putin. Same thing is happening in other parts of the world. Might happen in the U.S. We don't know. We don't know. Insaner things have happened, and so on and so forth. So, you know, just to, you know, keep your eye on the ball, keep, you know, realize where the hell we're at and what's going on. This is only going to get a lot more harder before it gets easier. And you know, this is just part of the nature of the game. I think one of these episodes I got to start talking about, you know, Martin Luther, the Protestant Reformation, and all that stuff that happened 500 years ago. Because again, just as we're witnessing and going through the stuff right now, all this stuff already happened before, okay? The only thing is that, you know, back then the technology was the printing press. Today the technology is the internet, but mainly the blockchain and Bitcoin and things like that, okay? But we're literally going through the same thing again. So those who choose not to look at history are doomed to repeat it. So please, I implore you guys to do a little homework and look into a little history. And again, please, let's continue the conversation down here in the comments, and not just in the Discord and not just in the live show, but in the comments as well. Because as you guys know, I answer pretty much all of you guys, and you know, I like to continue the conversation. It also helps me create better episodes and all this other stuff. But anyways, today's episode was very, very bank heavy. It was brought to you by Bitcoin. Actually, you know what? Today's sponsor is Redo Publishing. Redo Publishing is a great multimedia company that is owned by me. So please, if you guys need any kind of visual work, you know, any kind of visual work, any kind of photography, videography, editing work, any kind of anything, you know, any commercial work, any kind of anything, please check out my website, check me out, and bam, we'll work together. It's pretty cool, right? So anyways, check me out. I got a whole portfolio, I got a whole whatever. You're really interested, leave a comment and we'll get in touch, okay, or whatever. Or get in touch with me through social media. But yeah, so like I was just saying, you know, it was a very bank heavy episode. Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff going on, guys. There's really a lot of stuff going on, but we got to keep our eye on the ball and know that, you know, this game hasn't even started yet. You know, we're very, you know, we're barely at the beginning of it, and we have a lot to get through still. Okay, this is a major transition. It's going to be a lot of bloodshed, a lot of problems, you know, a lot of everything, but we're all going to come out awesome and rosy at the other end of it. And by the way, in case, you know, you guys are still here watching this episode all the way through, let me give you guys a little bit of Bitcoin and crypto news. I think that literally from next month going forward, if not already, but I really do think that literally from this moment going forward and so on and so forth, we're going to start seeing gradual increases within the price of crypto all across the board from here on end. And once we get to the end of the year, I think that we're going to see some sort of crash. And I think the crash is going to be exactly what happened last year. What happened at the end of 2018. Meaning that we had this mini crash from October all the way through January, and then that's it. We were back to the races again. I think something very similar is going to happen. And maybe worse, it might be a bigger dip, but what I'm saying is that once we get out of it, it's going to be business as usual all across the board, you know, within the stock market, you know, within the US economy, within all this other shit. The only difference is that you guys are going to wake up a lot poorer. You guys are going to wake up probably without a job. You guys are going to wake up, you know, and with a lot more turmoil than you know you were expecting, and then the government's going to come out and say, hey, don't worry about it, we're going to sprinkle a little bit of you know, money, we're going to, you know, throw some little bit of money on you guys. Oh, you guys want some universal basic income? Don't worry, we got you. Oh, you need more benefits? We got you. Oh, what, you know, like shit like that. And they're going to try and curtail this hyperinflation, and they're going to try and curtail the death of the dollar, which, you know, which is what they've been trying to do for the longest time. And in the meantime, as the empire dies and other empires arise, we're going to see the rise of Bitcoin and the rise of, you know, the rise in price of Bitcoin and other cryptos. Same thing as gold and silver and so on and so forth. And guys, I really don't think that we've seen anything yet. I really don't think that we're going to see a crash anymore. I could be 1,000,000% wrong. I honestly could be 1,000,000% wrong, but the more I study this, the more I'm really realizing that I really don't see a crash happening anytime soon, period. In fact, I think that we're never going to see another crash ever again. If the next crash is going to be the end of the dollar. And so if you know that the dollar's not going to end for maybe like another fucking decade or God knows how long, then yeah, can you imagine that we go like another decade without crashing? Okay, or that whatever little crash that we just had at the end of 2018 and whatever crash we're going to have at the beginning of 2019, I mean at the end of 2019 towards the beginning of 2020, through all that, that's going to be the crash. And then we're going to see the next crash, which is going to be the end all be all in 2029, 2028, 2029, some shit like that. Okay? So remember, I've talked about this before. You can check out my videos, I don't know where, just put in roaring 2020s. And I've talked about this before. I've said that we haven't seen anything yet. There's a humongous possibility that we're going to just see printing into oblivion and not see any more crashes ever again. I talked about this a long time ago, and it seems like that's what we're going to be seeing, what we're witnessing, what's going to happen. Now, again, you know, there's a lot of, that's why I keep talking to you guys, oh, buy stock or this or that, whatever, and a bunch of other things, because if that's the case, then there's still this is the long game now. You know, there's still a long ways to go. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you should be prepping in the sense of like making money, not prepping and buying cans for the apocalypse. You follow me? So, but again, you know, if I were you, I would be doing both. Okay? Not just one. Because you never know. All right? But it's gonna be a while. And again, who really knows what could happen? You know, we could see a major crash, okay, and you know, a really big crash, you know, or semi-big crash, you know, towards the end of 2019. And if that's the case, then obviously no one's going to re-elect Trump, and then we're going to see somebody else, and that somebody else could be a uber socialist type president, type emperor type shit. Okay? So that's why I'm saying, you know what I mean? If Trumpinator kind of keeps the whole ship afloat, and there's no real crash, or the crash doesn't really affect that many people at the end of this year and so on and so forth, then again, he's probably going to get reelected, because again, who the fuck else is out there? So that kind of shit. There's not enough of a dire straight situation for the whole population to vote in a socialist. Now, after Trump's done, maybe. The only thing that could exacerbate that, you know, like bring it on earlier, is if the major crash happens at the end of this year. But again, it just seems like they're kicking the can down the road. As we were reading in Zero Hedge yesterday and other publications, you know, it's just blatantly obvious that everyone is just really kicking down the can down the road. In fact, they're kicking the can so hard and so far down the road in 2019 that they haven't even gotten 2019 started. We're already like 3.5 months into the year, and we haven't even gotten the year started, literally. So, you know, there's going to be some turmoil by the end of the year, that's for sure. There's going to be some turmoil maybe this summer. We talked about that before. But again, if we're just looking at everything as it's happening, it doesn't seem like it's, you know, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse for everybody. But we're not going to be rioting on the streets, educated, you know, like you're seeing in France. And even if that's the case, that we have our own Yellow Vest movement within the U.S., again, guys, look at you know, what's happening in France. It's 18 weeks plus and counting, and nothing, barely a dent. Okay, that's why I'm a big proponent of the Second Amendment, no matter what. I don't even want to get into what happened in, you know, New Zealand and shit like that, because for obvious fucking reasons, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on out there. But you know, that's all part of the, you know, you already know, you know, they're trying to just silence the whole fucking thing. So, you know, again, just be aware. Remember why our forefathers, okay, needed the Second Amendment. The reason that we need, and this is where I'm going to end it, okay? But the reason that the Second Amendment is so important is because a Second Amendment isn't to protect yourself from a fucking guy coming at you, okay, on the side of the street, or isn't for hunting, or isn't because, oh, the Second Amendment was written a different time. No. It says it literally within our Constitution. It says it directly there. You can fucking read it. I'm not going to do the research. You guys can figure it out. But literally, Thomas Jefferson said it. The reason we need to bear arms and we need to have the Second Amendment is because at one point, the people will need to defend themselves against the government. That's it. So the reason we need the Second Amendment and to keep the Second Amendment is to protect ourselves against our own militarized police and our own government. Period. End of story. Okay? So just keep that in mind, all right? And again, if you know anything about history, every single time that a population is taken, you know, their guns are taken away, that's the beginning of the end. Okay? All right. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys. I got a few words before we end it. So I want to give you a big shout out to all you guys out there that were watching all my videos this weekend. Thank you so much. It really means a lot. I love making those episodes for you guys. They're awesome. They're amazing. But, you know, that didn't happen this weekend. That actually happened back in October or some shit like that when my friends came out here to visit. And, by the way, yeah, it reminds me, I think I got to renew my visa. Yeah, I got to renew my visa because I came back at the end of last year. So, anyways, sorry, off topic. But, yeah, that's when they came to visit, and I had all that stuff sitting in a hard drive, and I haven't had a chance to do anything with it because I've been so busy. But I found some time. I edited it for you guys. I know you guys are... You know, you guys have been begging me for all kinds of different Mexico content, and bam, there it is. And whoop, there it is. And there you go. So, all right, that's why you got a crypto heavy video today. Like, how long we going? Holy shit, it's a long video. Sorry, I feel sorry for you guys. You got to listen to me for half an hour. Holy shit. Anyways, well, it's over. You guys already listened to me. Gotcha. Gotcha, bitch. Anyways, guys. I'm sorry there was not much editing, if any, at all today, because I'm just really busy with work, and I just fucking forgot that I had to film an episode. This is why I got this, and I had so much to say and so much to discuss and get off my chest, because it's been so long that I've actually made one of these videos, believe it or not. Believe it or not. George isn't home, so leave a message at the beep. Anyways. Guys, I love you guys to death. I want to give a big shout out to all my new patrons out there. You guys know who you are. I want to give a shout out to all my old patrons out there. You guys know exactly who you guys are as well. By the way, the reason I'm not naming any names is because I forgot. Actually, I know. I just don't want to say half the names and then the other half like, hey, how come you didn't mention me? So this is like, you know, when the kids, ask, hey, who's your favorite? I was filming for so fucking long that this thing just died on me. So, well, anyways, without further ado, don't forget to please like, please subscribe, please share, please hit that bell icon, please hit the thumbs up, please turn the camera off, because otherwise I'm gonna keep going forever. Love you guys, peace out, and have a happy Taco Tuesday. Peace.